Hey, everybody, welcome back to your Donna Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zolda, your host, the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, and we are ending an incredible month that we dedicated to Autonomy Reimagined, sponsored by Avionics. And no better folks to end this with than the Pennsylvania Drone Association, Aerium, which is the related nonprofit, and David has other titles, and we're going to get into all this. But we have David Heath with us, and he is live from an event in Pennsylvania. So we may, have some technical glitches along the way, but that's just part of the deal when you're doing a conference. And this is a really big one. So, David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Don. I'm really glad to be here. I apologize for the internet connection, but our attendees ended up being a lot greater number than we anticipated. So,
hey, you know what? It's a great problem to have. And for everybody out there, if you don't know, I'm actually from Pennsylvania. I'm a Philly girl. I was just in Philadelphia last week, hanging out with Dave Krause from Influential Drones, flying drones all over the city. It was so awesome to come home for a little bit. And David, I'm so sorry I couldn't make this year's event. I know you did invite me, and it was just too much travel back to back, DC, Philly. I had to get home at some point. So it's been wild, but I want to, first of all, I want to throw down the gauntlet for folks out there and say a couple things. Number one, this is our very first show ever featuring basically a state. And I'm so proud that it's my home state. But I'm throwing the challenge out there. North Dakota, Oklahoma, North Carolina. Y'all are out there. Listen to what David has to say. If you want to be on the show, reach out to me because I love to see what folks are doing. And it really is kind of a competition amongst the states in the United States to see who's doing what. And David is at the tip of the spear doing amazing things in Pennsylvania. So for those that don't know him, David, can you give a little bit of background about yourself?
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, I wear a lot of hats. But the most prominent is I am a principal of a small consulting firm called BBP Solutions. So those are really the organizations that we help support, but also help airports, fixed base operators, and few far between. But my really big focus is on the aviation side.
And so when you think about autonomy reimagined, you're doing a lot of stuff in the drone space. You're looking forward to advanced air mobility and complex operations, eVTOL aircraft, as well as general aviation. So you guys are kind of running the whole gambit here, including, as you said, workforce development. So I want to talk first about the PA Drone Association, David, because this is a 501c6 business league. For those that don't know what that means, it's an organization that's really there to promote businesses in the state in the drone arena. So tell us a little bit about your involvement in the PA Drone Association, what you're doing. So there you go.
I'm back.
You are back. Go ahead. PA
I'm
Drone
back.
Association.
Yeah, so the PA Drone Association was founded back in 2019 to really kind of really highlight the drone industry in the state. And what I say is all the way from FPV flyers all the way up to DoD contractors and suppliers. And so what becomes unique in a state atmosphere is how cross-cutting and bridging all the different members of that industry, and then the industries that are utilizing is really the role it was in the creation of PA Drone, was to find that opportunity to highlight and be able to emphasize all of the great things that the drones provide within the state. And it's always molding and always looking at new things, but I think we're definitely headed in the right direction and seeing a lot of great things happening.
Yeah, for those that aren't familiar with the area, we call it the tri-state area, right? So you've got Pennsylvania, Jersey. I mean, we kind of consider New Jersey our brothers and sisters. They're right over the bridge. I mean, I must have driven over it like 50 times this past week to go to the Heritage Cup lacrosse tournament while I was staying in downtown Philly. But you mentioned, some amazing folks you have, and when you say that, I know you're talking about not just Pennsylvania folks, but also some Jersey folks, because I know you work very closely with them. Right off the top, I'm thinking, of course, Dave Krause and Influential Drones. But who are some of the other, kind of companies? I think John Eberhard, right?
Yep.
ATA Solutions is very involved in Pennsylvania. Tell us just, kind of a handful more. I know I don't want to put you on the
Oh
spot,
no.
but just to highlight the quality of companies coming out of PA.
Yeah. So I mean, the first two names that everyone knows, not only just in drones, but ASTM International is headquartered in Pennsylvania,
I didn't know that.
as well as SAE International. ASTM's in West Conshohocken, and SAE is outside of Pittsburgh. Um, but we also have, so as you mentioned, John Eberhard, he's a board member of PA Drone. But other companies include like Navmar Applied Sciences, which is DoD contractor and supplier, and Compass Systems, which does the same as well. But we also have
And as usual, when you're at a conference, yeah, you were just talking about Compass System.
yeah, so Compass Systems um, is a great example of one. But we also have Compass Systems is a contract manufacturer, and they're pumping out 10,000 drones this year alone. I
What?
mean, yeah, that's a lot of drones. But Verge, drone light show companies, XN Technologies, Near Earth Autonomy, One Sky in the UTM field. We have a lot of great companies that are doing great things, and we want to make sure to be able to highlight them as much as we can, and get them to do work here within the state and not outside of the state.
No, absolutely. And so, having been involved myself in a 501c6 in Colorado, the UAS Colorado, I look at the pillars that you guys are focused on are very similar for a 501c6: influence, collaboration, educate, network, create, and grow. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the groundbreaking industry progress that you've made in PA. You guys, and I know this was your leadership, David, because we talked about this, gosh, was it a year, 2 years ago? An economic impact survey that you put out. So this is not something that every state is doing, but I imagine from an advocacy standpoint with your legislature and with other businesses, and even with the public, this would be a critical document to help get that word out. So tell us about this economic survey and for the drone industry, and kind of what your findings were and what has come out of that.
Yeah, so the VBP team really supported PA Drone doing this with my colleague and all the different industry members, but PennDOT really leaned on the Drone Association to be able to do a lot of qualitative analysis of what different industries are utilizing UAS. And we actually identified 28 different verticals. The report only shows 21. And of companies that are utilizing drone technology today. And it really helps highlight from a state level to be able to say, listen, drones aren't just some futuristic things. They're truly being utilized within the economy of Pennsylvania, and be able to really highlight what those different fields are. And I mean, although we completed it in October of 2021, it just released at the beginning of this year, and just
Wow. I thought federal government bureaucracy was tough. We're talking a year and a half before the final report was able to be released.
yeah.
And I get it. There's a lot of reviews that have to occur. You said there were 28 sectors you identified that are using drones. You only published 21. There's a reason for that. But tell us, is there a way people can find it? Is it publicly accessible?
Yeah, it is on PennDOT's website, the Bureau of Aviation, and they can look at that study. So we didn't do all of them. There was also another consultant for the Bureau, but we helped identify the members of PA Drone to be able to highlight that, and then also those other industry members that um, aren't members, but showing the value that PA Drone can provide for them. So it's all about showing value of the association, and also value to the state, by being the voice of the industry.
So, if you know off the top, what were the top three kind of use cases?
Ooh. I don't think we truly ranked.
Rank them.
Yeah, we
What
did
are
not.
three that well, let me ask it
But
differently. What are three that jumped out that maybe were a little bit unusual that, most people aren't thinking about, but that people in PA are using drones for?
um, one which people don't think of as an industry in and of themselves is more like public entertainment, like in drone light shows, like how that is not.
Yeah, so drone light shows are one of those things that I think most commercial drone companies don't think about commercial light shows as being part of their group. But when you think about public acceptance and you put a drone light show, people get really excited, right? It's all over Twitter,
Oh
it's all
yeah.
over Facebook. And I remember, David, that after I remember there was a big Fly Eagles Fly one associated with some of those NFL championships and all that. So yeah, so drone light shows being one. How any others you want to just
Really,
quickly highlight?
really the big one, which we uh, dove into, and it's a no-brainer. It's not a shocker, but really the GIS in surveying is that's
Yeah,
where we're seeing a lot of the universities. So universities being another really big one. I mean, we
yeah.
have Carnegie Mellon and Penn State doing great things, pumping out a lot of students, but those universities have spun out a lot. And a lot of the universities, that's really more in the tech, but more in applicability, who's actually applying, is we have a ton of GIS departments within the state that are truly integrating UAS into their curriculum, into their education. And it's something that I'm working on with Diana with the FAA, UAS. And
The integration office, working with them. So as we kind of continue to have a little bit of tech difficulties there on the riding the conference Wi-Fi, David, I want to switch gears a little bit and ask, from this report, did you see positive impacts on the legislative side? What have you been able to use this for from an advocacy standpoint?
so right now, the tool is more about how it's changed. And what we truly are looking at doing from the association side is saying, hey, this report, yes, it came out, but this is how much the industry has changed, and what the value of that number is.
Yeah.
So even though it was a qualitative analysis, 28 industries is very eye-opening. Industries that may have not been traditionally within aviation, and really help drive the message of that, drones are aviation first. And now we have companies that were not involved in aviation outside of, booking business travel on an airline, where now they're running an aviation program, and showing the importance of education, and being able to allow more cross collaboration with those experts.
Yeah, PA has a huge energy sector, and you mentioned colleges. I mean, and universities, you could throw a stone in Pennsylvania and hit one. I personally went to the University of Scranton, and big coal mining, town in the past, and you know, drones are being used in mines routinely now. So I can think of a million ways that Pennsylvania could benefit from the use of drones. So that's so cool that you did that report. You also had some success on the legislative side, obtaining grant money from your local governments. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think it was, and I don't know, David, if this was part of that or something different, the UAS Innovation Fund that was created. Tell us about that.
So unfortunately, it didn't get all the way to the finish line, but
Roger. Okay.
it was introduced last legislative cycle, and we're looking at doing it again. But the UAS Innovation Fund is almost a catch-all of dedicated funding towards UAS programs, whether or not it's within a government or a nonprofit or even a for-profit business. It could have been used for acquiring aircraft. It could have been used for training. It could have been used for federal match funding for some of the larger programs, because we wanted to be able to create something that could allow an entrepreneur to procure a new sensor um, or be able to hire an expert to be able to come in, or like our friend Dave Krause, hire an expert to come in. And
Yeah,
there's a lot of, there is a possibility for that fund, and something that we're going to be looking at reintroducing this coming legislative cycle and getting it to the finish line.
Well, fingers crossed, David. We've seen a number of states throw up some pretty crazy bills, like Florida requiring almost like blue UAS program 1.0 drones by their government entities and things like this. How is that going? Have you had to swat back some bills? And then were you able, other than this one, this innovation fund, able to successfully advocate for legislation that did actually make its way into the books?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different things. There's one piece of UAS legislation that goes back pretty much about the same time the Drone Association started, which is our state preemption, which I know a lot of states are always looking for that. And one of our key focuses is always protecting that, which has been challenged. It has been challenged twice, and we've upended that twice. And so haven't seen that come through. The other piece,
David, for those that aren't legal savvy, what David is talking about is this idea that the kind of local municipal governments, they can't just start creating whole cloth their own drone laws, that the state level has primacy in the state of Pennsylvania. That's the preemption. So when there's a rule or a regulation or law that conflicts, then it will be the state that wins ultimately. It sounds like there were a couple challenges that were unsuccessful, and so that's awesome, because I think it's bad enough that there might be a patchwork quilt of state level laws for companies that work in multiple states, but then to be within a state and have like some municipal or some other thing you have to also worry about is just pure insanity.
and don't get me wrong, we have municipalities that have still enacted, and it's something that still exists here, and something that from the association side, with the right support and right opportunity, we've facilitated. Like Allegheny County Parks had an ordinance for drones, and we had a lot of like that local AMA field within the county park could fly model aircraft but couldn't fly drones because of the policy that they had in place. And so they had tried previously, but that's where the support of the Drone Association with strategy and a lot of those different efforts were able to get those ordinances removed. And so that's what we're always looking at and supporting at the municipal level, with our community relations committee, looking at ways in which that we can go in to support the local drone pilot or company that may be having issues to find a solution. And I spoke about that.
Yeah, that's the key role of a 501c6. But as you're coming back here, I want to talk a little bit now about this new 501c3, which is a not-for-profit organization called Aerium, that is related, maybe a spinoff of the PA Drone Association, but different. So, number one, why, I know you're involved in the creation of this, so I'm going to use the term you. I know it's not just you, but why did PA create Aerium?
So Aerium is actually it's kind of own standalone, but but PA Drone is partnered with. Aerium was created by a client of mine, Dr. Larry Knowlton, in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And it centered around a partnership between SkyWest Airlines and St. Francis University and the local school district here, really identifying the aviation workforce pathway, setting that in stone within the state and utilizing it as an example, but getting things passed at the state level that could not only benefit the local community, but would ultimately be able to support the entire state. And one of the big components of Aerium is that drones are aviation first.
Yep.
And so Dr. Knowlton.
He Go ahead, Dr.
I am
Knowlton.
here.
Drones.
He has been wonderful at being all encompassing in supporting drones, in supporting traditional aviation, and realizing that and creating a new Part 147 aviation maintenance technician program. Uh, so there's a lot of different great directions, and some of their great accomplishments already were getting something called SIP codes, so classification of instructional programming. It allows
Okay.
high schools to be able to create aviation programs and receive credit and use existing funding streams for those. And the 6 new SIP codes are 5 in the traditional aviation realm, but it also includes remote pilot. So that means that high schools in the state of Pennsylvania can implement drone programs as part of their curricula.
That's amazing, especially, the funding piece of this, right? Because we all know, especially public schools are woefully underfunded across the entire country. All kinds of programs and even main ones that you would think about. So to have STEM education being supported by this, I think it's really critical. And, we know David is live right now. You are coming to us from your inaugural trade show and conference that kicked off yesterday there it's Johnstown, or am I saying that right? Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a bigger state than you realize. I'm from Philly. I dwelled a lot in the Northeast area, kind of Pennsylvania, Scranton, Pocono Mountain area. But it's a big state, and I've never been to Johnstown. I know it's like a 4-hour drive from Philly. But tell us about and this trade show you're doing. It's with
Mhm.
Aerium, and tell us about this, the very first one. And I know we've got a lot of pictures, so I want to start doing a little show and tell
So
here. So maybe, Mike, if we could, if as David's talking, maybe roll the first pic.
so the showcase, the Aerium Summit is happening this week, and we're calling it Aviation Week in Johnstown. And that's because there's a lot of different activities happening, which the Aerium Summit is kind of the glue between all of them. We have the Commemorative Air Force here doing their Air Power History Tour. We also have an event that the local economic development organization puts on called Showcase for Commerce, which brings 1,000 people into town just for that, which is
Wow.
DoD contractors and suppliers.
Got it. Got it. So I think this is a picture of the airfield there at the airport. Oh, here we go. There's David, the next picture, there's David out there. That was you, I guess. Maybe was that this morning or yesterday? Because Dave Krause was.
It was this morning. I've been running around like a madman because the one of my colleagues said the Aerium Summit is David's brain map, and I think he couldn't be more right. Is because it's seeing this aviation community, drone community, all come together behind a unifying force of aviation workforce development, because we need drone pilots, we need manufacturers, we need engineers, we need mechanics, and it can be a very valuable tool for all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's like a who's who from Pennsylvania and beyond. Oh, there we go. There's Tony Reed from Drone Cadets. I don't, is that ASTI? I think I'm reading that. Gentleman next to him. So you got folks set up in a hangar, it looks like. And is this the brainchild of Aerium there, the doctor you mentioned?
Yes, that is Dr. Knowlton of Knowlton Aviation.
Very cool. That's a pretty sleek looking aircraft he's standing out there next to. Obviously pretty excited. And I think this is the commemorative Air Force that you had mentioned that has their own kind of co-located event that's out there in force with their, that was a B-29. Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah, Fifi.
Fifi, the B-29 out there on the flight line. So cool. And what's this a shot of here, David?
So this is just showing the commemorative Air Force tent and the upper hangar, where because we're having the event on an airfield, in hangars. You know, we've got the drone nets and everything, and aircraft running left and right. And so it is a fantastic time for anyone who's interested in vintage World War II aircraft to people that
I'm cracking up here. Speaking of vintage, look at this table. we've got our buddies from Ultra. I see Ray Adams there repping, and Ron Leach. I can't see the picture right now. I think everybody else out there can.
Yeah, it was the president of PA Drone. So my boss on that side, John Dusler, as well as John Eberhardt and Matt from Saab.
Awesome. And by the way, everybody, Brett Fedderson is out there in the audience shouting out to his Pennsylvania brothers and sisters. So hey, Brett, super fan. Love to hear you out there. Now this image with the shovel next to it, very shiny shovel, looks like it maybe has not been used yet. What is that image all about?
The Opportunity Park is located here on the Johnstown Airport. It's 130 acres for companies to come in that can have state and local tax abatement. So any drone companies, people that are looking at doing great things. Actually, our buddy Dave Krause is partnered with Aerium as well. We're going to be doing a public safety center here in partnership with him and NIST. They're probably going to be the first users of the Opportunity Park, getting that going in place. But there is a lot of great things. We have plans for 100,000 square foot MRO. We're talking about putting some large
acronym police here, MRO, for those that don't know.
Yeah, maintenance, repair, overhaul.
Gotcha.
So big maintenance center. But then we also have we're talking about we're going to be setting up an enablement area in Fix through John Eberhard and a lot of the other partners. So getting some airspace off.
I think he was saying airspace authorizations. So I'm like filling in sentences in the blanks, and it's good I know David so well. And
I apologize for the
no worries. Yep.
But to be able to authorize some great drone operations here within Johnstown, Cambria County, and ultimately pushing that further.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. And you mentioned something there, and I like the t-shirts, by the way. Got
Yeah.
hats of them.
I
You
was
got
like,
your team
gonna
there.
place myself better, but my
Very, very
team's
nice.
gotta go solve problems.
Very nice, very nice. You mentioned, I think, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, the big announcement with Dave Kraus and influential drones. I don't want to gloss over this because I think it is a really big deal, working with NIST for public safety. So we do have a lot of folks on the public safety side that follow this podcast. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the vision is for this training center at this kind of Keystone Park, if you will, and what the vision is for that?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple pieces that play into this. So the Drone Association, so Art Martianuska, who's the executive director of Cambria.
Oh, Cambria County, probably. Uh, yep, Cambria
Okay.
County.
And so the Drone Association actually partnered with all of the public safety associations in the state. So we have 8 other public safety associations
Yeah,
there. And so Dave, with his work with NIST and the FAST team, with him and Greg, being able to create an area testing training center is for companies to, one, qualify their robotic systems, so both aerial and ground robotics, but also the local National Guard squadrons that are here are looking at ways that they can integrate. Because within Johnstown, we actually have an air traffic controlling squadron and training center. So even looking about how does public safety interact with airspace that's heavily controlled, like next to an airport, but also being able to utilize the assets like the Black Hawk squadron that's here to be able to use his facility for rappelling and much, much more. It's
for those that aren't very familiar with the National Guard, they are primarily a state asset, in their Titles 32 and Title 5 status. Only, become federal, like the DoD, when they become federalized. So working with the state National Guard in Pennsylvania is really cool. So here's my question, Dave, because we have a lot of people out there that aren't from Pennsylvania watching this show. What's the timeline, and can they plug into this thing when it's ready to go?
I mean, the announcement came,
Heard of you first.
yeah, an hour and a half ago. So it is here. And so we actually have Pennsylvania's Department of Military and Veterans Affairs here that is going to be working through that process, and as well as Cambria County Emergency Services and Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, to see all of the different tools that can be utilized for the state, but also because of NIST and Airborne Public Safety and all of the great organizations that are there, can also utilize this asset and allow outside entities to come in. So Dave does the NIST courses. He did one here in Cambria as kind of a test, and we had people come in from Canada and California and Illinois. And yes, we had a lot of great Pennsylvania
support, but it sounds like this is not just even United States wide, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say global. I mean, you got Canadians coming down. I assume, look, David, there's a lot of companies looking to make their mark in the United States. I think when they first get here, they think, oh, North Carolina or whatever, but you're giving them now yet another place where they can come, embed in your community, and get flying in Pennsylvania. Like I said, it's a big state. with universities all over the place. So what a great opportunity, I
Oh
think, for
yeah,
people.
and even from the international standpoint, like PA Drone has now is facilitating international conversations. So like we have the Office of International Business Development here within the state, and they're leaning on the Drone Association because they have international drone companies coming to them, and they don't know what's happening within the industry, but all of our industry members, all of our members do.
Yep.
And so one country that we're working with very closely is Lithuania. Um, they are the
I'm
NATO.
Lithuanian. I don't know if you knew that.
You are?
Yes, I'm part.
But
So I'm Italian, Polish, and Lithuanian.
so I'm actually headed down to their embassy to meet their Minister of Transportation next week because the president of PA Drone is Lithuania, and Pennsylvania is actually the NATO partner for Lithuania.
Awesome. That is so cool that you're doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So that's how states can be global, is because a lot of people within aviation or drones are always so looking at the big dollar items and federal grants, but you're so that's why Johnstown is so unique right now, because we have federal, state, and local all saying yes. Whatever idea is put in front of them, they're like, yes, how can we support it? How can we leverage different funding assets to help support um, your different efforts? And so I think that is unique um, to supporting what I call the aviation ecosystem.
no, I agree. And you talked about who, I don't know who that person was, said this event here, this summit is your brain map. I love that because I know how hard it is to herd those cats, and for to pull off what you've been able to do so far and to continue expanding as you have been is really a testament to your leadership. That is unbelievable. And it really, you can be a great leader, but if you got a lot of people that are inclined to say no matter what you say, that's a problem. I love that in PA, all the ducks are lined up saying yes, 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 and they're quacking like, let's do it. And by the way, Brett says when you need to swing by when you're in DC, he might have some contacts there. So that would be a good link up for you. I knew our time would fly, David, and it is. So I want to make sure that we're hitting besides this Keystone Park and opportunity. What's up next from for the Drone Association, Aerium, BBP Solutions. What's kind of this is your 5-meter target. You're in the middle of it right now, executing this incredible summit. I assume it's going to be highly successful because it sounds like it already is. And you're going to do another one next year, which hopefully I'll be involved in this time. We'll plan further ahead, maybe a Law Tech Connect PA edition or something.
Yeah.
But besides that, what else do you have coming down the pike?
So really the big project here in John, so all guns have been pointed at the summit, and we're
Oh yeah.
here and we exceeded our projected numbers by over 100. I mean, we have 350 attendees here, which is, nothing to shake at, especially since we have the commemorative Air Force here as well, which they add another. So we have a lot of people here at the airport right now. The big project that is happening here is
And of course, he freezes on the big project is
yeah.
drum roll.
I wanted to build this.
Everybody out there, we meant to do that. We really wanted
Yeah,
to like have you sitting on the edge of your seat. What's the big one?
planned it, but it's going to be the delivery of Narcan.
Wow.
Doing it in a way that is economically viable. And
Yeah, that's. Can you talk about who those partners are? I'm just curious what drone delivery company, or do you have several?
yeah, so we're building a system that's a public data asset. And so it's hardware, software agnostic. The initial partners are initial, but it's going to be open to everyone and anyone. It's because if we can make drone delivery affordable for a drone company, that's the golden egg right now. Because we're working with the payers, we're working with the insurance companies to say, how much are you willing to pay? We are working with several universities that are going to be researching the effect of those deliveries, how many lives have been saved, how has their hospital stays been shortened, so that we're providing true data. It's not just testing and evaluation.
That's incredible. I think I know a couple companies that I might be calling you about here after this show, David.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So there
yeah,
are a bunch. So we have a ton of sensor providers. So Echodyne and Iris and Pierce and all of the great names that are doing great things is because we're not putting all of our eggs in one basket. It's about a layered effect. It's about risk-based analysis, and doing so in partnership with Aquasi, with the Alaska Center for UAS Integration, so that they, as a UAS test site, can provide data back to the FAA to hopefully certify the system. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't, we have significantly improved situational awareness, not only for UAS, but also even for the GA airports that are within the county that are non-towered. So
yeah. We actually had Kathy Cahill from Alaska on our live stream when we were at AUVSI Exponential a couple weeks ago, and they've been doing great things. I love how you lured the Beyond people to your turf. I'm telling you, that is unique. I have not heard of anybody else doing that. So good on you. I think
they are here at the Aerium Summit. Aquasi
oh,
is
so
here.
cool. All right. Well, tell them I said hello, and everybody
Yeah.
else. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm missing it. I really am. I would have loved to have been there. There's just a point where you have to, kind of call it. And I did need this week because I'm running like you, David, you know how this goes. I'm running my own event. I'm just fresh off my AUVSI Law Tech Connect. And now we've got one coming up in Houston with the Energy Drone Robotics Coalition Summit on June 12th, which is right around the corner. Real quick, shameless plug, everybody, if you're listening and watching, and you want a free pass plus a copy of my drone law textbook, you just got to get yourself to Houston, and all you got to do is DM me or email me at dawn@P3 Tech Consulting, and we're going to make that happen because I've got a bunch of free seats, and you get it also into the Energy Drone Robotics Coalition Summit for free as well. So if you can't come, but other people that would want to, please, please, please contact me. David knows what it's like to try to bring people to an event, and yours has been hugely successful with hundreds of people. This is going to be a lot more, let's just say a lot smaller, but hopefully equally as mighty in terms of the content. So we've got great speakers. We are 2 minutes out, David, and I want to give you the last opportunity here to tell us like how people can reach you if they're not in PA. At your event right now, what's the next thing? Where's the next conference that they might be able to find you either in a booth or running around the floor?
Yeah, so I'm going to be at the UAS AAM Summit in Baltimore with the FAA.
Yeah.
I'll
Yep.
be at NASAO.
NASAO, which is the National Association of State Aviation Officials.
I will be commercial UAV
In September. And so mark your calendars now, come a little early. And I'm telling you, David, and you tell Ron and Ray, because 2 years now they haven't shown up. I'm doing another Flash Mob Networking happy hour Monday night on Labor Day. So stay tuned. Well, follow me on social media, sign up for my newsletter. It's all in there. So, all right. So excellent. You've got a lot of things coming up where people can find you. And how else can they reach you besides live and in person at some of these events?
So LinkedIn, any of the social media channels, they can email me, whether it's my BBP email or PA Drone. So dheath@padrone.org. You'll always get me. Or just like you, Don, we have a great network. And so I think it's really good to lean on your network and reach out to anyone. I am happy to talk with everyone. My goal is to connect people, and be able to allow for as much positive collaboration as possible.
Well, you're doing a great job of it. So great to have you on the show, David. And thanks again to Volatus Aerospace that actually endowed David's appearance today as a Volatus Above and Beyond series guest. They've got some partners. They've got Frank from Connexicor, who works, I believe, with David and some of the crew we talked about there. And so thanks again to Volatus for that. And David, that's all she wrote. I think we are out here. Have a great remainder of your summit.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Don.
All right. See you, everyone.